Hi guys, thank you for joining me for another episode of my podcast, Clara Makes. I'm Clara. I'm going to reintroduce myself because I think we have some new faces here since my last podcast. Thank you so much for all your love and sources of inspiration that you left in the comments. And just to let you know who I am, again, I think for the third time, my name is Clara. And I live on the Chesapeake Bay in Maryland in the United States. Outside of knitting, I am a marine biologist, so I love spending time outside. Occasionally I do some project vlogs where I share some of that side of my more outdoorsy personality. And I make knitting podcasts, which I started doing a few months ago, maybe like in the spring. So we're through the summer now, and I figured that it was time to do a binding off summer video because I'm sensing a seasonal shift, kind of both in nature but also in what I'm wanting to knit. As soon as there was the first little whisper of fall crisp air, I was ready for wool garments, thick knits, cables, color work, everything, and like mohair and fluffiness and everything that has been too hot to have on the needles for the last few months. So before we satisfy those cravings, we're gonna do a little summer wrap up. So I've been pretty productive knitting wise in the last few weeks since my last podcast was put up. And honestly, that was kind of because it's been a pretty rough few weeks. Everything's better now, but I was just kind of channeling that through knitting, which is so calming and such a lovely way to find peace. And that resulted in this little stack of finished objects along with what I'm currently wearing. So let's get to it. What I'm currently wearing is the Ivy top by Petite Knit. This is, I feel like, the top of the summer. I saw another creator who I will tag knit the same exact top in the same exact color in the same exact yarn. So this was by no means an original idea to knit this top, but I love it and I reach for it all the time. I feel like this summer I was really motivated to fill a gap in my wardrobe, which my knitting wardrobes particularly, which is summer tops that I actually wear. I think in the past I've been drawn to patterns because they're really pretty, but then I knit them in a yarn that isn't necessarily breathable and practical for just how hot and humid it gets around here in Maryland. It is literally like pea soup through the summer. But this top I knit in Drops Bell, and that is basically the same thing as Sadness Garden Line. And I knit another top, which I'll talk about next, in Sadness Garden Line. And for anyone comparing the two, I think that you can really go either way. I know that Line has more colors and Drops Bell is more affordable. Those are the only things that I think would be positives on either side. For me, who is on a budget, I really appreciated Drops Bell in allowing me to make a top I used 4 balls and they were each like $2.50, so about $10. And it has the same exact fiber composition, it's cotton, linen, and viscose, the same method of plying. I think Drops Bell actually has a couple more meters per ball. So I'm not like team one or the other. I think it depends on your budget and the specific color you're going for, but I love my experience knitting with Drops Bell. I recommend it, especially if you're in Europe and you can pick it up from your local yarn shop. I would recommend. And in terms of the process of knitting this top, it was super fun. I like this style of knitting with the Ivy and the Sabai. Both of them, you kind of start in the round and you do some increases just in 2 points to build out this tiny little saddle in the shoulder. Then You also work short rows in the ivy top to raise the back. And then you separate the front and the back and you knit panels before joining in the round and doing the body. This ivy top was super, super simple because it's all stockinette stitch. There were 2 changes I made. So when we get to the sabai top, you'll see that I realized I had a bit of a tension issue. I think I mentioned this in my last podcast as well, where knitting flat, my purls are looser than my knits. So when I make a top, especially in this kind of slippery summer yarn, which doesn't fill up any gaps between the stitches, it looks looser up here in the knitted flat section than it did in the round. So you can see a difference in the see-through nature of the fabric, and especially for a top that I want to wear and just throw on for any day, I don't want to worry about it being see-through around my bust. So I did this by first. I guess I should have worn that and talked about it first, but it's fine. I kind of altered what I did for the ivy top by I used interchangeable circular needles, and I used my normal needle that the pattern called for on one side, and on the other side I used a half size down needle, so 1 US size, 1/2 millimeter. And I would purl the purl rows with that smaller needle and knit the knit rows with the normal needle, and I think it turned out really well. I think my tension is still super uniform in the stockinette in the round section because that's just like knitting bread and butter, but I can't see a stark difference in the fabric between the top and the bottom. If any of you have that issue, I'd recommend trying that. It resolved a lot of my worries with the top. The other change that I made is also something that I learned from making the sabai top. So the ivy top, in its simplicity, it does have kind of a raw edge on the armpit. And what I did is I did a tiny slip stitch edge following the instructions of the sabai for when I was knitting flat either edge. And that kind of makes it look cleaner. I'm not gonna like show my armpit to the camera, but the edge, the armhole edge, kind of rolls over a bit and looks more finished than just a raw stockinette edge. And I don't think that's necessary. I just figured, oh, I know how to do this. It's not gonna take me any extra time. I already have how to do it memorized, so why not? So yeah, all in all, I really like how it looks. I particularly really like this outfit. I feel like right now, if I was a cartoon character, I would want this outfit on, particularly with my little bright green Baggu bag. I wore that out and I'll put a video of me wearing that, but it just makes me happy. Hopefully if I stand up, you can still see, but this is the look, and that's the ivy top. So let's move on to the second summer top in my finished objects, which I feel like you've just heard all about when I was talking about the ivy top. This is the sabai, and I made the version with the ribbing. As you can see, the sabai is a lot bigger than the ivy. The ivy actually, in the pattern, has negative ease, and the sabai has positive ease. So this is more of like a drapey, casual, beachy, effortless top. I love wearing this. I actually was just wearing it this morning, so I literally should have just worn it for the podcast, but it's fine. I knit this one in Line, and I knit it in this gorgeous champagne color. It looks really beautiful in person because I think it's the linen, or maybe the viscose, takes on this sparkly pearlescent quality when it hits the light. I really like the detailing of the ribbing on the sides. I think it makes it look really intentional with kind of the boxiness of the top. If I were to knit a sabaya again, which I might next summer, I would knit one size smaller. I think this one it's beautiful, it's flowy, it does what it does as a piece, but if I want another one, I'd want it to be a little closer fitting, kind of like my ivy top. So I think that's something to consider when you're going into knitting either pattern, is just considering sabaya might be a little oversized, ivy might be a little undersized. What else is there to mention? This is a super simple construction, just the same as the ivy that I just talked about. I feel like everyone and their mother has made this pattern, but it's for a reason. It was addicting, it didn't take me long, looks great. It doesn't include short rows of any kind, which I don't think it needs when I wear it. I don't find it riding up, especially because the neck is so wide with being a boat neck. If it pulls up a little, it just looks like a boat neck. Like it's not gonna choke you because it is so wide. I haven't found it slipping up or anything, but if you do have a body type where you do experience those issues, you could pretty easily add German short rows to this just before knitting the front and back flat. And I don't know if you saw when I held it up, I'll hold it up again. And I'll also put a picture where you can kind of see it, but there is a slight discrepancy in the fabric between where I knit flat and where I knit in the round, because I just used the same needle size the whole way through. Overall though, I'm very happy with it. I think for such a simple project, I learned a lot about knitting summer garments from this top in terms of tension, needle sizing, fabric choice, fit, finishings. Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I'm glad I actually knit things for summer that I wear. Like I wear each of these probably once a week, so they are staples now. My third finished object, that's right, I have 4 finished objects. I'm gonna give myself a pat on the back, is really small. I made the penny gloves. Here they are. I love the color. If you can't see right now, I'll put a picture, but these are the penny gloves by Petite Knit, and they're just super simple fingerless gloves, knit in stockinette stitch. And I knit them in the Dream in Color Smooshy Cashmere, which is a fingering weight sock yarn. And then I held it with a slightly lighter soft silk mohair, which I forget, it was just from some random brand that I had in stash. And since the mohair is a little lighter, its halo and the little strands of silk that are kind of look woven through the knit pattern and the fabric look really shiny, and there's a slight marl to it. So yeah, I'm really happy with them. Unfortunately, they're not for me. I'll try them on for you too. So I'm just gonna say my family friend, someone who is a little distantly connected with me, here they are on. Ta-da! They're so cute. I need to make a pair for myself. But when she met me for the first time, she gave me a quilt. Like completely unprompted, I was just oohing and awing over her quilts. And she gave me one which I cherish so much. So these are on their way to her as soon as I see her. I think as a maker, or even a loved one of a maker, knowing how much work goes into handmade things, even for a craft sewing quilting, which I don't take part in, I admire it so much and I appreciate it so much, knowing the time and the creativity and the dedication that went into it. And I wanted to do something from my craft, which is knitting, using really nice materials to give her something that will last her whole life, and will show her how much I appreciate her gift. So yeah, I hope that's a little ad for gift knitting. It's totally fine. Like, I'm a selfish knitter, but occasionally I do like making something for someone else. And hey, oh, he's doing parkour. And just sharing the joy. Okay, so on to my 4th and final finished object. This is my combination Maggie cardigan and halibut sweater. So for a little backstory on this, I went to Alaska earlier this summer in like June, July for work. I was doing some work on zooplankton communities in Cook Inlet, Alaska. She is again. And I wanted a project to bring with me that was going to be quintessentially Alaskan. I've worked there once before for a summer, and I just love that area. And it is known, the town of Homer, where we were stationed, is known as the halibut fishing capital of the world. So I was inspired by the halibut pattern series. I think there's a more chunky cardigan and a kind of turtleneck pullover and a hat as well by Caitlin Hunter, who is an Alaskan designer. However, hi Tombo, I've already made the halibut sweater, so I wanted to do something a bit different that used the yarn weight that I have in stash, which was this Toft DK 100% wool in the color mushroom. I just love this brown. I always gravitate towards like a light, mushroomy, oaky brown for garments. I think brown is really my neutral, like it's my version of wearing black. So I chose the Maggie cardigan, which I had that pattern in my library, and I just applied the motif of the halibut pattern. And I'm not going to talk too much more about this now. This is the back, because I filmed check-ins throughout the whole process, and I filmed some cool B-roll of my adventures in Alaska. So I want to put up a vlog. I have all the materials for it. I just have to kind of film a try-on a chillier day and edit it. And then hopefully you guys will join me on that video and learn more about this little dynamic duo cardigan. I will give you just one little detail before I go, because I love this project so much. If you can see the buttons, you might notice that they are very organic looking, and like they're a little rough around the edges, but in a good way. That's because these buttons are made from discarded moose antlers. So moose, I think seasonally, will go through a period where they like fight each other and then their antlers fall off, and people will harvest them, like go on hikes and find them and make things out of them. So I got 2 sets of buttons to make this cardigan at a farmer's market when I was in Homer. So this project carries so many special memories, and I can't wait to wear it when it gets colder. And I'll share more in the vlog, and I hope to see you there. Okay, that teaser aside, we are now on to whips. So this was a very finished object focus episode, which is not normal for me. Like, I'm not a fast knitter. I knit, what is it called? I knit English style, so the slow version. Speed is like not my focus, and productivity is not my focus in my knitting. But my last episode was like my whip episode. So because I was working on so many things, I finished a lot, which is really satisfying. Right now I have fewer whips. I feel like I by no means am a monogamous knitter, but I enjoy having a more solid rotation of like maybe 2-3 tops projects. So I feel like I'm seeing progress on each of them, and one isn't just sitting over in the corner being neglected, and I feel guilty about it. So right now I just have 2 whips, and then I have one which I've swatched, so I'm not counting that. So first I have my Salty Days. I've showed it on the podcast before, and it honestly has not made that much progress since then. Let me just turn it inside out real quick. I don't know how it got turned inside out. So this is her. She is in this beautiful, bright, orchid-esque magenta pink. The yarn I picked up at the Maryland Sheep and Wool Festival, which I went to with one of my best friends. I'll pop the tag up, so if you guys missed that video, you can go check it out. It was a super fun experience, and I picked up some great yarn. This I got from the Miss Babs stall, and the yarn itself is called Killington DK, and it's a mix of merino wool and silk that's hand dyed, so super luxe. The only thing is, the Salty Days sweater is intended for a worsted, and they say you can make it with a DK if it meets gauge. I know I'm not meeting gauge, like this is gonna turn out smaller, but it's intended to be oversized, so I'm hoping it'll just fit normal. But this is one of the whips that was kind of sadly sitting in the corner despite the gorgeous yarn, the fun pattern, the fun process, because I was worried it was really small. Like, I'm a tall person, I'm 5'9", and I have a long torso. So I don't do any of that crop business, and I have to intentionally get sweaters, like when I buy clothes, which I rarely do, I get them a size up. And when I make sweaters, I have to calculate how much extra I'm gonna knit the body and arms. So since it was running small, and it's not like you can just keep going endlessly, there's a set pattern of these little stripes of different textures. It was just sitting over there, and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna have to figure out how to alter the pattern to make this longer, or start over and do a different size, God forbid. And then I was like, wait, why don't I just do a mid-project block and see if it is actually tiny? So I just steamed it. I kind of like cheated in blocking it, and the lace already stretched out so much, the fabric relaxed so much, and I think it's gonna be fine, guys. I think I was freaking out for no reason. I don't think it's gonna be the oversized sweater of my comfy dreams, but I do think it's going to be a classy, well-fitting, beautiful, fun sweater. So I'm on the bottom ribbing now. Now that I'm not ignoring it and I'm actually working on it, I think it's gonna work up really fast. I'm gonna finish the bottom ribbing at any point, today, tomorrow, whatever, and then do the collar, and then do the arms. And for the arms, the pattern itself just recommends doing the ribbing section right here, ribbing all down the arms. Then there's, I think, a little bit of the lace pattern at the bottom of the arms, and then ribbing for the cuff. I think that's kind of boring. Like, no shade to the designer, who I didn't mention, but the designer is Kuta Vakika, or Veronica Lindberg. She has her own channel on YouTube. She has a bunch of popular knitting books. I think she's super talented. But I saw a project on Ravelry, which I'll put a picture up of, where they modified the pattern to do these different texture repeats on both arms. And I think that'll help me avoid Sleeve Island by making it super fun and potato chippy. And then why not, you know? I think it'll be a fun experiment. The only thing I'm concerned about is making sure I pick up enough stitches for the sleeves to fit the pattern repeat. So like the certain amount of stitches needed to do one cable or one lace repeat in each chart. But I think I can do that. I'll just have to actually count how many stitches I pick up instead of blindly following a ratio. So that's that with the Salty Days. I hope to show you some progress on it next time we talk. But no more ignoring this one. My other project, I'm gonna have to go up and get, so I'll pause here. I'll be right back. All right, hi, I'm back. We're gonna have some hydration. This is a mug that my mom got me way back. It is like a hand-thrown mug. And I'm drinking tea that my abuela gave me, which is white tea with lychee. So I hope you guys have a cozy drink in front of you while you're knitting. Here is my second whip back to regularly scheduled programming. What yarn am I using? This is Drop Spell, once again. I had to order it online because I'm in the States. So if I was like, if I'm gonna get it, I'm gonna get it in a few colors. And once I untangle this mess, which I just carry around with me in my purse, you can see that it's actually gorgeous. Look at it, it's beautiful. It's lace, so it really is going to benefit from a block and not being scrunched up on tiny needles. but you can see the potential, right? So this is the Palmetti by Lynette. I've been really wanting to try Lynette's patterns because I think they are all so gorgeous and striking and classic, and they have fun cables and lace. And I really wanted to knit the Palmetti because it has these beautiful, super simple lace repeats, kind of like a little peacock fan. I don't know if this is called pineapple lace, or if anyone knows what this style of lace is called, and I'll put a better picture up of what it actually looks like, please let me know. The only thing is, I have not loved the pattern. I know that this was originally written in a different language and then translated to English, so I don't know if it's a problem of poor translation, but there were a few things that got me. First, I noticed that there was just a super simple mistake where it was like purl the last stitch, and then the next repeat it was like knit a certain amount then purl, so they switched the order. So if you were blindly following it, you would have made the chart misalign. I was just like, oh, okay, I'll purl the one that was purled the row before and continue the pattern as it's supposed to be. But I thought for a paid pattern, that was kind of sloppy. And then another thing is that in the chart, the first increase you do is described really strangely. Like instead of saying make one left or make one right, they say pick up the bar in between the stitches with the left needle and knit it. It's like, okay, but pick it up which way? So I saw a lot of people in the Ravelry pattern comments were also confused about that, so it's not just a me thing. And a lot of people ended up doing a knit one front back, but when you do that, it's gonna create a purl bar. So that's not a perfect solution. I just did like one is a make one left, one is a make one right, but I do wish that had been clarified. So again, those are kind of minor issues, but they were both at the beginning of the pattern, so it was a little frustrating in terms of getting into the flow. I'm by no means like going to avoid knitting Lynette patterns. I actually have another one of her patterns that I want to knit very soon. But it's definitely not like a cast on while you're at coffee with your friends kind of pattern. It's more of a cast on when you have the motivation to really pay attention. But then when you get into it, the lace chart, super easy. It's just a bunch of yarn overs and knits and purls. If no one told you, that's all lace knitting is. You just have to pay attention. I don't think this was the pattern fault. This is my fault. I don't think I paid attention very well, and I was just kind of vibing through the lace chart because each of these lace pattern repeats is like its own little ray going down this circular yoke. And two of them, when I got to the end, I had fewer stitches than I was supposed to. So I don't know why that happened, but I definitely did it wrong. And I just kind of, in the last couple repeats before the end of the lace yoke, just did some fudging of the pattern. Like I decreased just one instead of two, and then I was able to add additional yarn overs to get them all to the same amount. So this has not been the easiest pattern, but I do love it. I think it's gonna be so gorgeous once it's blocked. I own very little white, but I think this is gonna be so elegant. I hope to get it done before the end of the summer, like maybe in the next week or two. But I do think that I could adapt this to wear it year round. The other thing I did is I ended 2 repeats before the bottom of the lace chart, just because I don't want to worry about my bra showing through. So it was more stockinette stitch lower down on my chest. And I saw a lot of people in the Ravelry comments made the same simple modification. So just for a quick overview of the pattern construction, not to lengthen this talk too much, but basically you do a short ribbing, then you start the lace pattern, and as you start it, you do German short rows. So you have to be like really locked in and paying attention for that section. And then through doing the lace pattern, you do increases through the yarn overs. Then you finish it, do a little stockinette, put the shoulders on hold, and then cast on some stitches for the underarm, do the body and stockinette, do the arms and stockinette. Voila, you're done. So I'm on the easy part now. I'm just on mindless stockinette. So tonight I'll watch some TV or YouTube or listen to an audiobook and churn through that and just keep doing that until I'm done. So that's whip number 2. Now, whip number 3 is kind of a future plan. And while in these videos, I usually talk a lot about future planning, I'm not gonna do that in this one because I have so many plans that it's gonna unnecessarily lengthen this episode to like a feature length film and bore you guys. So instead, I'm gonna do a whole separate video, my first seasonal planning video, just because fall's so exciting. I feel like we're all getting into it as people who love using and wearing wool. And I'm gonna do my planning all from stash, from yarn that I currently have. So join me in that video coming up soon, and then you can see my future plans. But for now, I'll give you a little teaser, and this is the one that I am definitely doing. So I have some family traditions related to knitting that my mom and I have started recently. Like we do a cast on together on Christmas. And then last year I made my dad a sweater for Christmas. He did get it late, but that's also because I had to like frog the whole body and start over. However, this year I want to be way more put together and continue the tradition of giving him a Christmas sweater. I'll also put up a picture of his sweater from last year. I think it's quite cute. So we have 4 sheep, or my family does. And last year I made him a sweater with some oatmeal colored yarn. And then this year I'm making him a sweater with our sheep Janie's yarn, who's a gray sheep. And I let him choose from a bunch of different men's knitting patterns for a sweater. And he chose the one that was definitely the hardest and is going to take the longest, but that's totally fine because it's a labor of love. And I want him to enjoy wearing it and want to put it on when it gets cold enough. And that is the Dagmar zipper sweater men's edition. So it's another petite knit. But you know, there aren't that many designers that make men's patterns, which is something I found out when looking for his choices last year and this year. I've knit a swatch. She looks like this. Hopefully you can see. She's a little wrinkly because the swatch has just been in my bag, but this is the most legit swatch I've ever done for a project, because if you're familiar with the Dagmar sweater, it has multiple cable textures throughout it. So when saying, okay, the gauge is X amount of stitches in pattern, it's like the whole pattern. I have to swatch the whole pattern. But I Googled it and another maker put up this photo of her swatch. And I just did something similar. I chose the same chart and I did the honeycomb pattern, the little 1x1 cable twist pattern, and then the big diamond cable pattern, and blocked it and tested the gauge. And on the needle size recommended, my gauge is finer than the gauge it calls for because I'm working with a worsted weight yarn instead of an Aran weight. So I'm just sizing up, and he likes a tighter fitting garment. He doesn't want it oversized. So I think it's gonna work out just fine. And before we move on, I just want to take a moment and ooh and awe over how gorgeous and squishy this yarn is from my parent sheep. Janie, the sheep it comes from, is a super sweet girl. She's gray and she's gotten like a lighter gray throughout her years. So I think this is from a couple years ago. Okay, so now we're done with whips. You've seen everything I finished, and now we're gonna have a super quick acquisition section. I got both of these acquisitions as gifts, and one of them, I I got as a gift from a total stranger, and not in a like, oh, my channel is sponsored kind of way. It's not. I'm not that popular. But I live in Maryland, near the Baltimore area. And if you live anywhere near there, you should just check out Scrap Baltimore. It is kind of all over the place with the selection of yarn it has, because it is a community-run, secondhand kind of thrift shop specifically for craft supplies. So the way it works is everyone donates leftovers. I think as crafters, a lot of us, our eyes are bigger than our stomachs in terms of what materials we can actually use. And this place is kind of a way to turn that into affordable supplies for other makers. And I went in looking for yarn, and I was looking through the yarn section. I'm super picky, so I wasn't really finding something. And this girl comes up to me and tells me, she goes, hey, I know this is weird, but I just came in and tried to donate this bag of yarn, and they said they couldn't take donations because they were full. Do you want it? I was like, oh, yeah, for sure. Like, can you show it to me? And she just gave it to me. She didn't ask me to pay any money or anything. And it is this beautiful, gorgeous, fingering weight, camel colored yarn. I hope you can see. I know it got a little shady outside just then. But I have 5 balls in total. The brand is Eden Cottage Yarns, which I hadn't heard of before. But it's in the color Autumn Fields, and it's 85% blue-faced Leicester, which is my favorite sheep breed. They have such soft wool, and they have really funny faces and noses, so I love them. And then 15% silk. And each ball is 218 yards or 200 meters. So I have 1,000 meters in total, which is, I think, enough to make either a close to the skin long sleeve garment or a oversized boxy tee. And while I'm balking at the idea of knitting something in fingering weight, I've been really inspired by one of my favorite knitting podcasts, which is Two Peas in a Pod, which are 2 friends who are knitters from Australia. And one of them is making these like kind of Cezanne inspired garments, which are just exactly what she wants in a garment, usually at a really fine gauge. So they take forever, but they are just beautiful and look luxury and timeless. So I want to adopt some of that patient attitude and just slowly pick away at a fingering weight garment, and I think that yarn is perfect to do that with. And then my last little acquisition is from my dear friend Elena. I don't know if she watches this podcast, because she's basically an elf, like a forest elf, if they existed as a human being. And she sent me this really cute little sheep pouch, and I guess you could use it. It's by the brand Wonderland Yarns and Fabulous Fibers, and it's just a little, I think, coin pouch, but I'm gonna use it to store stitch markers. And I opened it thinking that, and she had given me stitch markers too, and they're shaped like a cat, so Tombo can feel represented in my work instead of like I'm ignoring him to knit. This is my last acquisition, kind of an unconventional one as well. I love thrifting, and I found this at the thrift the other day. It's like a medicine compact with a little coral and pearls on the front, and I got it for $1, so not bad. Tombo thinks they're treats. But if I can get up and show you, I've been organizing my stitch markers inside, and it makes me feel so put together, and I can have them in something cute and organized, and just pop this in my purse and have it with me. And it sounds like maracas when I shake it, so I should probably think about that before like vigorously moving my bag. Anyways, those are my 3 little acquisitions, which in total I spent $1 on, so pretty proud. And I just want to wish you guys all the best, and thank you for joining me. I think right now, both in terms of our making and in terms of our personal life, there's a lot of like wrapping up one season and then being open to the change of a new one. Thank you again for hanging out with me. I hope your knitting is going smoothly and you're not dropping any stitches, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.